Okay. It's a little after 7. Let's get this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yanni?
Here.
Casanova?
Here.
Hader? Here. Larson?
Here.
Schneider? Ramirez?
Here.
Leak?
Here.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Shifted. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, start off, we have a delegate room here. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the council members. I was out in the car, trying to get my face on so I could look at least as presentable as Councilmember Passanello. So thank you. Very, very excellent choice of wardrobe today. Also, Councilmember Benet, welcome. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for stepping up to serve here. This is great. Familiar faces all around. So welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. So let's dive into it because I was told I'm supposed to be on your time and not Danica time today. So let's get into that. That, by the way, I was born 2 weeks late, so that's a pre-existing condition. I would have been late ever since. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. We are going to talk about today the basically bills that we passed to mine. I tied David Bulova for the most bills passed in the 48-member House Democratic Caucus this year with 9, and that includes your town charter. There is one thing that we have to deal with the charter in terms of revision that we were just made aware of today, but it's going to be pretty minor, pretty easy fix. My understanding is basically what was left in from the old charter is that the clerk was supposed to take over like the September after the election. That would have assumed that you had a May election with a July 1st transfer at that point, and so within 2 months of that. I think that's going to be a relatively simple fix in terms of the November election because keep in mind, by state code, you only have November elections now anyway, which supersedes the charter. So as long as things go well with your clerk, you aren't going to have a problem before January of next year. So we will just make sure that we get that taken care of. Fortunately for you all, you are an even body election year organization as opposed to an odd body one. So that is that. And I have stalled as long as I can so that we can jump into the next slide. That will show you our bills. So the first one that we will deal with here. Next slide. So first one here, your town charter. So what we've done here is we have moved your elections officially now to November. We also cleaned up all that obsolete code about drunkards and poppers. I assume to accommodate former council member Weir, who's in the back here, now supervisor. Cool. So I wanted to make sure pretty much that we are keeping you all as up to date as humanly possible with the town charter. As I promised you all at the beginning, I sit on the charter subcommittee. You all need anything on your charters, come to me. We will take care of it word for word, exactly as intended by the town council. And one of the important parts for me being on the charter sub is making sure that the integrity of the charter amendments that you request is preserved. And a side note to this, I didn't even have to present the bill in the Senate. It literally came up. Senator John Bell happened to sit on the local government committee. They passed it within 30 seconds, I believe it took. So yeah, you had a nice robust hearing in the Senate after we took care of business in the House.
Yep.
Okay, next part here.
Defend it.
Yes. Speaking of which, it is so nice that the Haymarket Town Council is probably the only municipality in the entire state that actually passes resolutions saying, yes, we support more transparency regarding FOIA, more transparency regarding other things. And so, well, we passed 2 of these things. Now, part of this was based on a FOIA Advisory Council recommendation from previous legislation I had that was supposed to deal with capping some, eliminating other FOIA fees. What we ended up having here instead is basically 2 transparency things here. Number one, so that our constituents here in Haymarket don't have to go all the way to the McCourt building in order to file a FOIA request in the first place. We are now clarified that in our wonderful Dillon Rule state that a locality may accept electronic payments. The original bill said shall accept electronic payments, but I can count to 51 really, really well, and I didn't have the votes, let alone 5, to get out of subcommittee if I did not change the shall into a may. Where a delegate from far southwest and he was just like, I want to support this, but I can't do it with shall. I said, may, fine. So we got over to the Senate. Senator Donovan, I was actually like, I think shall would be great. I was like, I do too, and I'm so glad you agree with me. I need you to tell that to your party in the House. So one day we will come back and we will turn that from may into shall, which will be so good, but just not today. In the meantime, we will say super pleased with the cherry on top to Prince William County to ask them to do this. Next one, FOIA written policy. What you all should be doing that is super simple for Haymarket as well as super simple for everyone else is just simply post on your website. These are the FOIA process and procedures that any constituent of yours should expect. This is good for you because what this means is that when a constituent is going to file a FOIA request with the town, they know what they're getting themselves into ahead of time. That is one of the biggest issues we have is, they just responded back to me. I have no idea what this is all about, X, Y, or Z. This clarifies that these are all the things someone should expect when they are filing that FOIA request in the first place. And at which point, the only question should be that if you are going to charge a fee, which is not common for the town of Haymarket, fortunately, thank you all, that basically that's going to be the only thing that's going to end up being different than what's already on the website to begin with. This is a transparency bill so that everyone knows what they're getting themselves into, so that the Freedom of Information Act is more accessible for our constituents. Whole point of this. There's not a lot of governing bodies in this state where we all get to sit here and be like, wow, we're being really transparent for the people. And we're like, wow, they actually are being. This is nice. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. All right, one of the big undertakings I have done all 3 terms of office that took 6 years, and we finally got the payoff this year after a 6-year-long fight with this, is substantial, major reform of the adult guardianship system in Virginia. If you here have an adult in your life, or you know an adult in your life who is deemed incapacitated, and that person is not responsible for their own rights, but you or someone else you know is, show of hands, chances are we've all come across someone in that state before, right? That person is the most vulnerable person in Virginia society. And I say that because an incapacitated adult, unlike an incapacitated child who can be under the ward of the state, or they have certain protections that are applied to a minor, an adult can absolutely be left out in the cold. We have to take care of them. When we don't, people die. And this happened when I was delegate-elect, before I was actually sworn in, but it was after the election in 2017. And so I vowed to do something to change this. So number 1, we are now requiring guardians to have to visit their wards 3 times a year. Once in person, all 3 of these you can do in person in order to satisfy each one, but once guaranteed in person, once by a designee or in person, or virtually, and the other one or virtually. We originally wanted 4 in-person visits. We had a world of fights, nitpicking everything you can imagine under the sun before we settled on this. This is the version that could get out of committee. The hospital associations were not happy with it. They wanted 2. My side wasn't happy. We wanted 4. We were forced to compromise, and this is what we have. I don't know why Virginia can't do what Ohio and Florida does with this, but magically, here we are. So this is what we got. But at least it's better than the current system, which does not have that requirement. Next part here, for HB 2028, this one is making sure that there are actual visitation requirements so that if you want to visit your kin, you are able to do that within reasonable means. If there is a restriction placed against family being able to see their kin, it has to be justified. Because what has happened is that you've had basically professional guardians, people who are paid to do this, or people who are contracted, whatever it is, who have been keeping out certain family members and such. That leads to a world of problems, as you have with this. This also gives the family an ability to appeal within court if the visitation restriction has been unduly applied. Now, we do allow restrictions in case of financial exploitation, physical harm. There's a number of things within the bill that allows us to do this. But for any of you here who have aging parents, or you are concerned that someone in your life is basically going to have to be under someone else's guardianship at some point, these bills are super important for you and your family. This is about protecting the most vulnerable among us. Finally, we also had just did a little cleanup for the Guardian Advisory Board to make sure that all the members have consistent terms. We were having a little bit of an issue with that. All right, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, next part. We like feeding people. Hungry kids can't learn because they're focused on their bellies as opposed to focusing on their education. So what do? We pass bills to feed kids. Now, what we could do is just have universal free school meals and solve all the problems immediately. That would be huge here in Haymarket. Yours truly carried the budget amendment for that this year. The House Republicans were not happy that I carried that budget amendment and they killed it, along with the companion legislation. So I'll keep pushing it as long as the people of Haymarket and such tell me that I should be representing them. So what I will say with this that we did here is we did something that's a good pro-parent initiative. Yay, we like parents' rights, so we're going to talk about pro-parent initiatives here. Number one, when you go to your child's school, for back to school night, you should be presented with a free and reduced meal application on the spot, either paper and or electronic, that you can sign. Here's something that we don't talk a lot about as elected officials: adult illiteracy rates. It is much more common than you think. And no, not only just because when you have English as a second language learners who are living in the area, but I'm talking about just in general, there's a sizable portion of adults who struggle with literacy, of all sorts of socioeconomic backgrounds, you name it. This makes sure that there is an adult in the room as a professional, in this case a teacher, someone who can help them navigate the system and be able to even simply read it to them. We want to encourage as many eligible families to be enrolled in free and reduced meal applications because the more we have of that in a school, the closer to CEP eligibility we get. I suspect Tyler is not that far out. By the way, we don't have any CEP eligible schools west of Manassas. I think Tyler's probably the closest one we got. And this is one I really want to take a shot at to see if we can get Tyler eligible for the community eligibility provision, which provides universal free school breakfast and free school lunch to all students who are there. Because right now in Western Prince William, even Battlefield, even Reagan, even name your school of choice, yes, Tyler as well, we have school meal debt issues. I have personally paid off Pace West school meal debt on at least one occasion. This is a thing. And look, if your child goes to Pace West, the last thing that they need to deal with is school meal debt. I mean, like, that's just, they have 1,000 other issues that they got to deal with. They don't need this. So what we're trying to do is make sure that people are actually enrolled. Next part here is we also are making sure that we are allowing the Department of Social Services to work with food banks to be able to, actually that's further one down, but yeah, I'll just into that. So we're allowing food banks such as the Haymarket Regional Food Pantry, for example, to be able to work with its clientele to be able to basically initiate the SNAP process, the SNAP applications. Because for any of you who are part of the Haymarket Regional Food Pantry, and here, there's actually multiple of you I know for a fact have been involved with them at some point in time. I have myself in terms of being a donor to them. We want to make sure that they are able to work with their clientele to make sure that they are fed constantly, consistently year-round, and not only when times are very, very tough, but that they've got an access to food so they don't only have to rely on the food bank in the first place because that stretches them thin. Here's the thing. If you're enrolled in SNAP, you become automatically eligible for free and reduced meals. The inverse is not necessarily true, but that part is. And then the other bill here, this also makes sure that we are sending those SNAP applications, that basically those SNAP applications are making it to parents in the first place at home. And again, if they are applying for SNAP, that they're also then in the mail getting that free and reduced meal application as well. This is just another crack at it where you're basically trying to see, hey, how many touches can I get to put this free and reduced meal application in front of somebody? Because if we do that, we're going to be able to maximize enrollment among already eligible families. And since we passed my bill, HB 5113 in 2020, we have seen almost 200,000 more students across Virginia actually be covered for universal free school meals because of CEP schools becoming eligibility. That includes all the schools in the city of Manassas Park, all the schools in the city of Manassas, and now 37 Prince William County schools. Again, trying to bring it out as far west as possible, really, really trying to help you out here. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, we had a lot of bills that were Haymarket initiatives, that were Western Prince William, Gainesville sort of initiatives and such. We fought like hell for these. A lot of these advanced in the legislative process, but they didn't get out entirely. So underground and transmission lines, for anything dealing with the Prince William Digital Gateway. This bill made it out of subcommittee on a bipartisan vote, and then the full committee chairwoman argued against the wrong bill before leading a party line vote to kill this one. She argued against the bill underneath of this one, HB 1986, the Stormwater Management Bill. What you need to know, for all of the fights, arguments, and everything that we were having about Prince William Digital Gateway right now, the one thing we all agree about is we don't want more above-ground transmission lines. The town of Haymarket has had to deal with this intimately in 2014 and in 2006. I covered both of those as a reporter. So what we're trying to do is saying, no, we don't want 110-foot high, 155-foot high transmission lines going anywhere even close to this vicinity. And because we passed my bill, HB 1030, back in 2020 in the first place, to ban above-ground transmission lines between Gainesville and Haymarket for the rest of this decade along the I-66 corridor, we are trying to withhold the integrity of that in the first place by forcing any project over there to have buried transmission lines. So again, bill advances out of committee, and then the same people who voted for it in committee magically all turned around and voted against it in full committee because their chair told them that's what they had to do. That, my friends, is the legislative process at work of what happens when you see a hive mind in live real time. It is so obnoxious. And by the way, it died on an 11-10 vote because the delegate from Fauquier County, who we were really counting on for a little help on this, didn't show up in that committee. And then, by the way, he got his transmission line bill vetoed by the governor because the governor wildly supports data centers and does not want the extra charge associated with putting buried transmission lines in the public interest as determined by the SEC, which is really obnoxious for all of us that live in basically the Prince William and Fauquier area, because all of us know that right now the ratepayers are getting screwed whenever these data centers take these transmission lines in the first place. I believe what it was 97% of the transmission line for the hybrid route is supposed to be feeding the Amazon data center, and the residents are on the bill for it. Your constituents and mine alike. We're trying to prevent problems like this from coming up. So anyways, first bill, advanced out sub, dies. Second bill, stormwater management. This would have significantly increased stormwater management regulations regarding Prince William Digital Gateway. And the reason for that is because we were dealing with a major water source in this case. We were dealing with major environmental concerns in this case. And basically, if you stand to make money off of this project, you are against this bill. If you stood to defend the battlefield or to defend the environment, you were for this bill. You can probably figure out where this bill died. Moving on. We also had a bill to study the impact, simply just study the impact of data centers on every aspect of basically Virginia economy, environment, so forth. This died on a 3-2 to 1 vote in the Rules Subcommittee, but the Senate companion from Senator Peterson actually passed the Senate, got into the House, and then met a similar fate there. So the problem was the House in this case as opposed to the Senate. It was the only thing with data centers that we actually had momentum on beyond just a subcommittee vote. Here's the bottom line I'm going to give you on this. We've got one more shot at all of this come January. Digital Gateway is not going to be ready by that point, no matter what happens the rest of this year. We got one more chance with this. We've got to convince the governor's office that this is good, that this is what our constituents want on a bipartisan basis. We have to convince the folks in the state legislature, because as much as I want to just blame the other party for all of it, and no, I can, my party's got a lot of cleanup that they got to do themselves. You know, I lost one Democrat on one of these bills. Not happy about that. This should be, as far as I'm concerned, a core constituent service issue that goes beyond party politics in this, because we are trying to take care of our land resources and your property values, quite frankly. Moving on to the next part here is Farm to School Program Task Force. Not only do we want universal free school meals, we want healthy school meals, and we want to teach kids about gardening and how to grow their own food and such. So that bill had to die because that's how the House of Delegates work sometimes. Then we also had my Transportation Safety Fund bill. This would be to take 10% of a state budget surplus and allocate it into the Virginia Highway Safety Improvement Program. That died because, well, the administration who we talked to actually agreed with us on this, and then behind the scenes, they then went to the House Transportation Committee chairman and told him, no, you should just get rid of it. And then it died on a party line vote because, again, that's how this has been working the last 2 years. I suspect if you give me a third crack at this next year, we're going to get something out of it, because we had 1,000 plus people who died on Virginia roadways last year, after more than 900 died the year before that. We have reached the breaking point. And this morning, by the way, on Route 28, we had a giant crash of a dump truck that hit into a utility pole. And guess what it did? It screwed up the 66 commute for your constituents because my folks in Manassas bailed out onto 66. That's what happened. So we have to care about this sort of stuff. There's one other bill, and I don't think it was on this one. Maybe it's on the next slide, if you can go forward. Okay, it's not, but let me tell you about the other one. We passed our bill through 2 full committees to protect thoroughfare, to basically allow interment rights at private, at family cemeteries located on private property, basically in former heirs' properties, and got it out of both the General Laws Committee as well as the Courts of Justice Committee with only 1 vote against. We got it through second read on the House floor. Then the day of crossover, the day that the House has to finish its work on its bills, Senate has to finish its work on its bills, the House Republicans sent the bill back to committee, which is a very polite way to kill a bill. I was furious because they gave me no advance notice. They told me a minute and a half before the invocation started that day. Unacceptable. And I spoke to the Speaker of the House personally one-on-one afterward, and I told him that this was not okay. And even he acknowledged that, yeah, they should have done better with this. They should have worked this out if they had a problem with it on second read. So I told Frank Washington from the Coalition to Save Thoroughfare that this will be, assuming that the people send me back to Richmond next year, this will be the first bill I file, because we did everything we were asked to do for this bill. And the concern was, well, how is this going to affect private property owners? The Constitution of Virginia, Article 10, Section 6A3, specifically states that cemeteries are not taxed. Therefore, the property owner, it's not an issue for them because they're not paying a tax on it. They already have to provide egress for people to get into the property in order to visit in the first place. Having a burial within that already contained area that they are not paying a tax on doesn't hurt their land, and it doesn't hurt their property. So then we passed a bunch of memorial and commending resolutions as well, mainly stuff on the eastern part of the district. Really happy with the work that we have with our libraries that have been renovated, including Manassas Park, Central Community in Manassas, and the Bull Run Library. They look really good. The Haymarket Library has kind of been the gem of Prince William libraries for a little while, and now our Manassas area ones are starting to catch up, which is really nice. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. So what you all need to know in terms of transportation funding, back in January, we secured $24.47 million for Route 28 funds between Yorkshire and Manassas Park, and we also secured $8.9 million for innovative intersection design along Rollins Ford Road. Why does this affect Haymarket? Because now that we have checked that box and that box, guess which one is going to get the next big look? The Route 15 overpass right over your railroad tracks, right down the street. I have fought a lot about this issue because every year it doesn't get done, the cost escalates. We're looking at like a nearly $90 million project that used to be in the $50 million range like 10 years ago. Yep. It is so far overdue. But what happened in the last year, friends? We had car crash, fatal, right on the railroad tracks. That should not happen, because no one should be in a position to try to dodge the arms coming down in the first place and getting hit. We've got to get that done. And for Haymarket, now that we've got our bus that links out here, although I also want to get you all a bus to Dulles, that's another thing for me. But we have another different bus out to Dulles, but I want Haymarket to get one. My number one transportation priority for Haymarket is getting that overpass, because if we don't have it, people get hurt. And here's the other big one: first responders get stuck when those arms go down, and you've got a long freight train. As Councilmember Passanel will be able to tell you in depth what happens when you've got a mile-long train going and you can't get first responders around it, because that's going to back it up all the way into Old Carolina. It's going to back it up into the whole area over here. So that's a constant thing we will continue to work on. All right, let's go to the next one. That's where you can contact me. Groovy. Questions? I really tried to keep this all in your all's time. I was trying to get done at 25, a minute over.
Questions?
Questions?
Any questions? So I do have a question about the budget.
Hi, yep.
Do you think you're going to be called back into session, or because it's an election season, it might float?
So my understanding, Mr. Mayor, I would tell the council member here that yes, we do expect to be called back into special session some point after June 20th and ideally before July 1st, so that we can pass stuff that will then affect y'all's local budgets here. unfortunately, the state put you all in a terrible position of having to have guesstimates about what sort of support you were going to receive this year as opposed to actuals. And I'm sorry the state did that to you. That is a finance committee and appropriations committee blunder, as opposed to those of us who are, on the county, cities, and towns committee. Wasn't our fault. But that said, stay tuned, because after June 20th, when the primaries have concluded, that's when I expect we will very quickly have the governor it gets kind of weird, but basically because there's a current special session, whatever, someone is going to call us back in special session. That's what I expect to happen. And when that does happen, I won't have to present in front of y'all, but we'll at least keep you in the loop. I'll send you all an email basically saying like, hey, here's what the budget's going to do. Here's how it's going to affect y'all. If it has a municipal effect, this is what you should expect.
Great, thank you.
Yep. What I can tell you is the hang up right now, there's $1 billion difference between the House wants more tax cuts, the Senate wants more education spending. That's where the $1 billion difference is coming through. So they're going to have to split it at some point.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for the briefing.
Well, thank you all very, very kindly. Thanks for your support, and thank you for all the work that you do. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list, we got the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 budget presentation.
We have a seat right there.
Good evening, Council. Today we are having the public hearing for the proposed FY 2024 budget. We're going to be doing this together, the town manager and myself. Okay, let's get it started. First of all, everyone has hard copies of the budget. Okay. We will be posting this up on the website, and will be part of the agenda packet for next week as well. Okay, some of the highlights on the proposed budget. And this year we discussed the real estate tax reduction. We'll do it this year. We're able to do another year, consecutive year of doing a reduced tax rate, which essentially would give a flat rate real estate tax bill to the current town residents. Along with the counties, you guys are aware, they also had done the same. Thanks to, yes, our friend from the county, for getting that done out there. One of the other highlights in this budget, obviously, is the continuation of the projects we initiated. These are based on this part sidewalk and the completion of the town center master plan. These are all being seen through using the ARPA funds. This budget also discusses the full-time position, an additional full-time position as in the maintenance, and the event coordinator as a part-timer. This budget will also highlight the plan for the staggering of purchases of new PD vehicles. This is something that has been discussed throughout the year with the chief, and he had input on it, along as with the finance. So it's been discussed from almost since December on how we're going to get this process going. Here's a snapshot of the current census for the town, or the most recent one. I can tell you by looking at the ones from 2010, the population has reduced. The median age has increased by 3 years. The median income, the house income have increased. Population has increased as well. And I went ahead and noted on the bottom where we got the information if anyone wanted to see it to confirm. Some considerations for the 2024 budget. The main thing was one of the things we wanted to address was definitely the reduction on real estate tax. As you all are aware, the town has seen significant increase when it comes to the commercial side. Yet, assessments are being increased on residentials as well. We worked to find a way to be able to reduce that, considering how the inflation and everything going on with the country, to try to assist our town residents. And that's the reason why we proposed the 0.111 per 100. This budget also will be funding the police department's career development program. This is something that the chief actually had discussed last year, but we have to held back just to see one more year how the budget was going when we worked on that one last year. The proposed budget, though, does include a 5% COLA and merit program for all employees, police department and town hall administration. This budget also addresses the increase in our town general liability insurance. It also does address the 8.9% increase on health insurance, though it's high, but it's not as high as many other jurisdictions have had. Next one. Do you want to take this one? Great.
These are some of the town services and programs that we currently offer and have been working hard on the last couple years with this council. So we've significantly grown our events and community outreach efforts to include our farmers market. We're continuing with that this year. We have brought on our part-time event coordinator who is doing a phenomenal job and continuing our efforts and also looking on how we can grow those efforts in the coming months with the budget that we have. And preparing for next year's budget as well. We've been able to utilize some of the tourism line item efforts there to encourage additional tourism opportunities in our community, as well as offering different advertisement opportunities for our businesses to encourage them to reach out further beyond our town boundaries and greater community to have additional customers come in or just find new ways to get more of a service base. We're looking at our historic museum. Hopefully we will be able to have it open here very soon. We have analyzed how we can get a small rental program going on in the museum. That's for our residents, businesses, and also some nonprofit organizations to come in, utilize the space as a meeting hall, a gathering point, something that can bring our community together, but it's something that we can offer at a lower rate based on what we've been able to program into the budget. We also have our general services that we continue to provide, the 24/7 public safety services that Chief does a great job at with his department, and they continue to do great public service announcements and just really serve our community through their community policing efforts. We have our land use development services that has significantly grown this past year and has been managed with our in-house staff and then the help of some of our consultants. That'll continue to grow this coming year as we finish out the Crossroads Village Development Project, as well as D.R. Horton is working on Robinson Paradise. We do have a couple smaller properties that are looking at redevelopment, so we'll continue to work with them closely to offer those professional services. We also have our refuse and recycling collection. I know we'll be getting ready for some talks there, but currently we offer that to all of our residents, and we'll continue to do so. You'll have to hit tab a couple times.
So on this page, it's just kind of highlighting some of the process that we began here in December 2022 to get to where we're at today. We did hold some meetings with finance as well as with town council as a whole. We did a work session to discuss the budget, the wants and needs of the coming year, and concerns. How we've come to a conclusion on some of these proposed revenue sources and expenditures are by seeing the trends in the past 5 years. Obviously, in this budget, you don't see that, but if you were to go back, you would see that big sheet that shows all those trends currently where we're at. Here are some of the goals that we have for this proposed budget. The completion, obviously, of the two big projects that we have started. One will be in completion, the Town Center Master Plan, by the end of this fiscal year. In the next fiscal year, we should be going ready to go into the RFP stage of that, as well as the park sidewalk construction in front of the park. That is ongoing. And the town manager, this year really wants to bring back the focus on the beautification of our town streets and our town. Also, the funding to be competitive with the region. Our proposed wage plan is actually mirroring similar to what the county's doing, obviously at a lesser percentage, but mirroring that. Our goal is to get a more standardized process with that. In the past, we really have not had that in the admin side and the police department side. But yet still, keeping the taxes as minimized as we can. Again, this is just kind of explaining the train of thought when it came to how we came up to this with this budget. Okay, and here is what we are proposing tonight as the budget. As you can see, I definitely want to draw attention to the general property taxes. When we proposed this 0.11%, the thought was to assist the town residents who are going to take a huge hit with their assessments. The ongoing assessments in the past 3 years have increased dramatically. The revenue increases you do see there are due to the commercial side assessments, not on the town residents. This is just a kind of a visual of what the budget revenue source looks like. Obviously, the bigger one is more of the other local taxes. That's when it comes to the meals taxes, business licenses, consumption taxes, and sales taxes. Again, on this is the proposed budget is the expenditures. You see as obviously the public safety is one of our higher ones, but I like to remind everyone that this is due to we are implementing two new things, which is the career development program for retainage and also the vehicle purchases. If you guys have followed us, you know that this current year we were able to, thanks to the chief, having some people down in Richmond, I believe, we were able to obtain one of the vehicles now, but we do plan to continue to purchase a second vehicle. So that is partially why that amount is so high as well. This is a visual of the expenditures. Public safety will always probably be one of the higher ones, but as many as you know, this is one of the things that draws many of the new residents that come in. Just having a 24-hour service, it's been great. Here's a little history on the tax rate. Here's a visual, just another visual as well as to where the town compares to our other local neighbors. We are one of the cheapest towns to live in within the county and surrounding neighborhoods. What this graph also does not show is that unlike many other jurisdictions, we do not have certain taxes that they do. Utilities, vehicles, registrations every year. We have a one-time permanent registration, property tax as well. This is also a 5-year comparison on the tax rate in the county versus what the town has done. Obviously, the upper portion is what the county's tax rate has been in the past 5 years. The lower portion is where the town of Haymarket has been at. The goal has always been to, assist our towns, as we know that our town residents pay double tax to the county and to us, yet still achieving our goals and objectives when it comes to the budget overall. This is just the proposed tax rates. Every year we have to adopt these as well. Nothing has changed, with the exception of the real estate property tax that's proposed. We have not, we reviewed this about 2018, 17 was the last time we reviewed it and changed, and we feel confident on what the rates are currently. So we saw no need for a change on that. These are some of our property assessed. Every year we get our properties assessed by the insurance Versa, who insures us, the town as a whole. So just wanted to share with this, as this is information that has been updated from last year.
From the recent assessment?
Yes, yes. And the final page is just a presentation of the balanced budget, focusing on what the revenues and expenditures look like. If there's any specific questions, the town manager and myself will be more than happy to try to answer. Okay, or we could do it after the public hearing as the town manager. Yep. Okay.
Any questions for Roberto? Okay.
Do you want to go through the motion of opening the public hearing, hearing out citizen comments, and then we can close the public hearing and have a
We'll
discussion?
continue on? Okay. So let's open the public hearing then. We could read off the public notice.
Can we read it? Oh.
Good evening. Notice is hereby given that the mayor and council of the town of Haymarket will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Haymarket Town Hall located at 15000 Washington Street, Suite 100, Haymarket, Virginia, on the town of Haymarket's proposed budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. That's from July 1 of 2023 to June 30, 2024. And proposed tax rates in support of budget pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2-2506. The following is a synopsis of the proposed budget. They're showing a graph of a balanced budget of $3,255,126. The proposed tax rates, there has been no changes except for the proposed real estate tax rate at 0.111 per 100 of the assessed value. The budget is available on the town's website and for review at the town hall located at 15000 Washington Street between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. All meetings are open to the public. Handicap accommodation is available. This hearing will be open to the public, and the town council will permit all citizens of the town the right to attend and state their views.
Okay. We'll open it up for citizen comment. Any emails?
No, sir.
And it doesn't look like we have anybody in the audience. So I guess we'll close the public hearing. and open it for questions. Anybody have questions?
I have comments. Well, possibly questions. On the second page, where we talk about the town admin, so we do have other folks working here too, right? Was that just an oversight, or do we want to put them in here so everybody understands? Because we have Matt's now full-time, right? We've got Rachel as our events coordinator, part-time. We've got Thomas as our planner, part-time. Does it make sense to put that there too, so people can understand?
We can certainly add them.
Just a thought.
Would you like for us to also add the entirety of the police department?
I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Nope. You'd have to open up a new category for it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Big Al is good.
I think it's good transparency.
Okay. Next page. When we discussed the continuation and completion of town-initiated projects such as Park Sidewalk and Town Center Master Plan by implementing ARPA funds. So to what extent will ARPA cover some of those costs? That's a question that pops up in my mind. I'm not sure if anybody else will ask that, but it's something to consider. I mean, my assumption is that the funding will be there for the park sidewalk, but I'm really not sure what's going to happen with the town center, the master plan there, and what that's going to cost. I imagine that'll have to be a number of, I guess, biddable documents. It'll be sequenced, and we'll need other outside funding for that. So I just don't want to give the impression that it's going to be all covered through ARPA, because I don't think that's going to cover half of it.
Okay.
And then you mentioned career development. I think that was good to hear. That's important. I mean, I know the chief has his program, career development, but it's also town staff has a career development as well. So you might want to just hit on that as well. Let me just see. So the town services and programs. I don't know what number slide that is. The one with the honeycomb? Mm-hmm. What about maintenance? What about the fact that we now have Matt full-time and he's going to be focusing on stated good repair stuff? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Beautification.
Beautification, well,
The maintenance.
yeah, okay. I mean, is that under tourism development or no? Just throwing it out there for a thought. I mean, part of the problem is we fall behind on a lot of the maintenance. We all know that, and you're going to be doing the asset inventory and identifying all the assets in town and starting to develop a program for maintenance. So, I mean, I think that's important for people to understand as well.
Yeah, and you also have an identification on the pie chart for Public Works. Maybe you want to put that as a service or maintenance. Yeah, I know Public Works is kind of a tricky word because of what it really means.
Just a thought.
Thank you.
Let me see if I've made any other notes. Yeah, I do have a question about the table, the proposed budget. Will you say percentage of budget? Is that percentage change?
Yes,
Okay, not percentage of the budget, but percentage change.
percentage change.
All right. And that would be for both tables?
Not the pie chart.
No, not the
tables,
pie
yes,
chart, the tables.
yes, the table, yep.
All right, okay. That's all I have for now. Anything else I'll bring to finance? Oh, there is one more thing. I'm sorry. I think most of us got the email over the weekend. It sounded like a phishing email or something. Was that a phishing email about sticker program? Did you see that? Did you guys?
I don't know that any of us necessarily got the email, but I do know that the video was relocated from several years back and it was reshared on TikTok. And yes,
Okay.
one of our employees notified us today that it was reshared and it already by lunchtime had like 327,000 views on TikTok. And so my email's been blowing up from it. Our post on Facebook, everything having to do with the farmer's market, everything is getting comments and hits on our vehicle decals and that video that was previously posted several years ago.
Ah, okay.
So
that
the
was
email you
trigger.
probably received was a trigger point that started with that video that was reshared. I don't know if it popped up in somebody's memories from a few years back and they just shared it out there, but it happens about once a year, this time every year.
Okay.
Staff just handles it and
Oh, okay.
it'll die down in a couple days and
All right.
goes
So
away.
I can ignore that email.
You can ignore it.
But my only reason for raising it is like number 2 on the proposed tax rate, that's really $0, and we continue to do that for personal property, right? And that's the point. We do the decal in place of that. And that's, what, $15? Right, okay. So if you're listening on the email. No. I'm just making an observation that, based on that email that we got this weekend about the decals, we don't have a personal property tax, but we do have the decal, but it's a one-time only. So whoever's listening and sending the email, just, we don't charge personal property tax. The county does. Anybody have any comments on it? No? Okay.
Any idea what town residents would have to pay for refuse and recycling if they had to pay out of pocket? Any idea, monthly? What it would be?
We can get back to you on that. I would have to look at that.
Okay, I'm just curious. Of course, the taxes that we pay property is offset by, I'd like to know exactly by how much, just give me an idea, and, I'm sure the town residents, they'd give them an idea too.
I can tell you in 2016, I think there is I stumbled upon one of the older budgets, and back then it was about 175. If we were to pay for, I apologize, that's for the trash service. I'll get back to you on that specific question.
Is that what you're asking about, the trash?
Yeah, if we had to pay for it out of
Oh.
pocket, the offset, right?
The offset.
Yes.
Yeah, the trash back in 2016, it was about 175 per home.
Per,
Per quarter?
I would have to look at that because I briefly looked at it when we were working on this budget.
yeah, probably per quarter, yeah, I don't know.
When you think about it, it's a pretty good deal.
It is, yeah, if you, factor that in, then hopefully it's close to being a wash, wash. But we'll see. Do you think that we can, I know our revenues as a result of new businesses, new properties, our revenues are going to continue to go up, right? Do you think we'll ever get to the point where our tax rates will be, property tax rates, comparable to what we were looking at in Warrenton? Which was, I think, 0.04% or even lower?
Not unless the county wants to get involved with us. Warrenton has a lot of items that they actually have the county assist them with.
Yeah, because they have a courthouse in their town.
So the county does assist a lot of their stuff too.
It's the county seat, right? It's the county seat.
I think so.
Yes. So that's part of the reason why they have such a reduced tax rate versus us. But they also have many other tax items that we don't. They have dog tags, utilities. They have property taxes. The vehicle registrations. So they do have other items that they do tax on. So it's not.
Additional revenue,
Yeah,
sources
so,
of
yeah.
revenue, okay.
Yep.
I mean, if we were to, I'm not proposing we eliminate property taxes, but if we were to eliminate it, we're talking about a shortfall of about $470,000, right? as of right now. So now going forward with these new businesses, new revenue, sales tax, what have you, if we get to that point, hopefully we'll get to that point where we will at least reduce the rate even further, right? But we'll see.
Yes.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Good question.
Go ahead.
Could you remind me when the properties were assessed?
They were assessed in March.
In March.
Well, they were given to me in March, but closer to, I think the report was completed in January, February, but they were not finalized until March, and that's when they was given to me by the county.
But basically, the assessments are from the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of lagging.
Are these assessments from Prince William County, or do we do our own assessment?
No, Prince William County supplies the assessments to us. They go out and actually assess the properties. They're a building official as well, so they now also have better control over permitting. Prior to them taking over, one of the reasons why these residents did have such a huge increase, some of them, is because prior to 2018, the town had their own building department, and some of the permits and work, addition, decks, basements, weren't transferred over to the county. So when the county took over in 2018, and obviously with the real estate, how hot it has been in the past couple of years, a lot of residents were realizing that their property wasn't assessed correctly. Basements weren't recognized as completed. Any additions they were doing, some of them were having issues with that. They had, before they could sell, they would have to reapply for permitting and have the county inspectors come out and review it. So that's another reason, along with obviously the homes increases, is that many residents did not have the permitting done correctly back when the town had its own building official.
And just for some clarification, so this actually dates way before 2018 as far as that transfer of information.
Yes, yeah.
For example, let's give Vice Mayor at the time Edwards' home as an example, where she was one of the first residents in Green Hill Crossing and went through the things of having the building department and had her basement refinished through the town, inspected, but then that information never did transfer over to the county. And then when it came to sell her home, she realizes, or the county realizes, wait a minute, you have a finished basement, your assessment. So there's so many homes, I think, like that in our town, that just that lack of record keeping through the years, back from early 2000, probably even till today.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen as much because the county is actually really good on it. I know contractors and residents, they get upset when they do have to go through a process, but the process is what makes it feasible for the county to know and address any permitting issues and why the assessments are, these assessments are probably the most accurate you can get since 2018, I believe. Because now, Councilman Leek, it's not just you come in and request a permit, fill out application. It's a process here, and then they have to go to the county. The county has to receive the letter of zoning approval from our zoning administrator. So even though it may seem tedious, at the end, it's for the best for the town and also for the resident itself.
Well, I understand going forward, and I appreciate that. But I think in the back, I know that at one point they were going to come out to the town and actually go through the records to make sure. Did that ever happen, or where they actually came on site and went through, your files?
No, they have not. That was something we had discussed in the 2019 timeframe. I think once COVID hit, that was not a possibility during those years. We've not revisited that option or that discussion. Certainly, our assessment officer, I guess that could be his title, Mr. Oakes, he stops by often to talk to Roberto and I. He does the residential assessments in the town, and he continues to offer and let us know that anything we need from him when it comes to talking about files or ongoing cases he has or any concerns that residents have, that he's always available. He said that he can try to talk to his superiors and see about getting a team to come out and go through our land files. But typically how we handle it now is if a resident on, Little John Court were to come in and want to sell their home, we will scan everything we have in the file over to Prince William County. It's a little work on our end, but we certainly do it for the resident, send them what we have, and then they help them out through that process.
I forget, how much are we paying for refuse and recycling, the contract that we have? How much are we paying on an annual basis? Do you have
right-
that?
So right now, it's at, I couldn't give you a hard number because it increased now. But it's $14 and some change for a single-family home and $13 and some change for townhomes.
So right now, just if you go to your budget and your
Yeah, it's line item 4320001,
right, so we're budgeted 110,000 for the year.
packet page 6.
Yes, but at the time when we worked on that budget, we assumed Crossroads gave us the impression that they would be up and ready with the Pulte homes. Van Meter was always on track to be up and ready this current fiscal year. So we did add some funds for that this current year, but it actually is should be less than that. We should come in under that this year.
Right, because we only have another month to go, right?
Yes.
So I think the bigger issue, and we've talked about in finance, is the fact that the contract is going to be finished next year, at the end of next year. So that's going to be an issue. We'll have to see how that negotiation goes.
Okay. On the,
But- Sorry, Mayor, but the way things are with one more month, we should end the year with 93,963 around there for the whole year, fiscal year, for trash service.
Okay. One more question. Did we run a surplus last year?
We did run a surplus last year,
How
but that's
about-
what was used to go for the tax refunds.
Okay, do you know exactly how much? I know that was, the tax refund was 250, right?
The tax
250.
refunds, we used 250,000. The remaining got placed into the reserves.
So what was the total surplus?
It was 508, I believe, and some change.
Okay.
And again, these are pre-audited numbers, because we are still, and I'll get to that on my agenda report, but we still have not got our final audit done for 2022.
Thanks.
Good questions.
okay. Just some, the property assets. We got down the park facility as a food pantry. I would like to kind of get that terminology out of here.
Good point.
Yeah, my apologies on that. That is actually where they still have it tracked under. I'll talk to Versa, the reps over there, to update the names, the titles.
Now I'm assuming that this handles structure as well as land, right? How does the playground fall into this as an asset on this property?
They look at it as a whole.
Okay.
So that would be the 14740
Correct.
Washington
And,
Street?
I believe there's a little shed there in the garage, but the little shed actually wasn't actually included in the assessment in prior years. So last year, I actually walked with the assessors, the property, so they actually included that because in prior years, they did not have that little shed there.
So they're basing this asset on what? Obviously not the tax record, because they show the old post office, 15020 Washington, at 269, whereas For some reason, Prince William has us at 41,600 as of today, just looking it up. There's a big disparity on a lot of the properties of what the tax, and I realize that the tax should be lower, should never be like this kind of egregious numbers. So where do they base that? How do they come up with their findings?
I would have to ask them. They come out, they have inspectors that come out, and they usually run the property. I can ask them their methodology, and if you would like.
So it's not like an appraisal amount, this is just their assessment of, I would think that they would use.
If it were to burn down, what they would insure it up to, what they would give the town back. If it were to damage or hurricane or anything, this is what they value that property at.
Right.
And
Versa.
So I would definitely think that Prince William County would want to relook at 15020 Washington, just what they're basing a $40,000 value for, which should be, I'd be concerned of the 260. I would think that would be underestimated for the building.
Which property is that, sir?
15020.
Post office.
It's listed as Old Post Office.
Okay.
what building is that?
So are you saying,
Washington
because this
Realty.
is the rate in which it's insured, basically? Like, that's the amount that it should be
Right,
insured
which I think
for.
that would be low. I would look at Tracy to see, or Vice Mayor,
property
that
that's low.
260 would be like, it should be double that amount, I would think.
I would argue that it should be higher.
Yes, correct.
regardless, but
And with the
whether it's
county-
doubled is not question.
And with the county, we're underpaying, or we're, if we do pay, sort of with the lease, but it's for $40,000 for them to have that on their books for that.
Because with the county, sir, I get what you're getting to now. With the county, we do not pay for the property that we lease out when we don't lease out. But we do pay a certain percentage, not a full percentage of what the assessed is when we have a lease there. But I understand, I get your question now.
I'm just going under the real estate assessment, which the other buildings are pretty close, and we rent those out as well, but that one has a big disparity that,
I can look into that.
I don't think we pay. That's what his point is, that we don't pay, not unless we lease it. But it should be accurate, and it.
So Roberto,
Yes.
let me ask you a question about this page, since we're on the subject. So from a balance sheet perspective and an accounting perspective, these are the numbers that your auditors would want you to show? Or not? Or is that something we should talk about tomorrow at finance?
We could talk tomorrow about finance.
Okay. But these are the numbers that plug into the balance sheet, right?
Yes. And to address it, so Derek Buckman, he works in the real estate department. I asked him this question actually a few months ago, and he said that when we are taxed, how they tax the assessment is 15% of the total market value. That is what, so when we lease a property, they only tax it at 15% of the total market value.
So
But I can ask Derek on it as well.
So is that 15% the 40,000? Is that what we're thinking? Because then what you could derive using an algebraic equation, exactly what the value is, based on that percentage.
That is correct.
Okay.
It's 40,410, yep.
Okay.
Looking in the income section here, where do I go to see the tax revenue? Not tax, sorry, interest revenue.
The interest revenue. So that would fall under the, let me get to that page. Revenue use of money.
That's about right.
So it is the fifth line down on the revenue side, revenue use of money. 11,500 proposed.
$11,500? And just approximately how much do we have sitting in whatever account we have? I mean, the reason I'm asking this is to figure out whether or not we have taken necessary steps to make sure that we are, getting market interest income, right? Market driven.
I could tell you in the past year with Finance Committee, we actually addressed this. We had long-term bonds, state bonds, prior to this year, and we were losing funds. We were losing money. So this year, the beginning of this fiscal year, well, end of last year, we moved them over to a more aggressive type of bond, as well as our bank. When VNB took over the Fauquier Bank, we are actually getting at a higher percentage at 5% for our current accounts. That's another reason why we're receiving with the market right now and the high interest rates, we are receiving a good payback as of right now.
Okay.
That's what we see at 3150 under revenue.
So 11,000, 5%, that's assuming we have about 200K?
No, we have more than that.
So
So the ARPA funds, we have about 1.7 million. The reserve account, we have almost close to 2 million. Our general operating funds, we have over 1 million, I think 1.6. So we do have a good amount of funds there.
So how did we get to 11,400? That's,
Because we don't know what the market is going to be.
okay,
If
that's
the
just
interest
a
rates are
low
gonna-
estimate then, okay.
Yeah, because
okay.
we don't know what the interest rate will be in the coming year. And if those funds were to increase more than the 11,500, we would have address a budget amendment, or they will automatically go into the reserves.
Okay.
We're also going to be depleting some of those funds. Hopefully. Hopefully we get an RFP out for the sidewalk, and we can start to move on that. That'll take a chunk of change.
So it sounds like we do ongoing assessment to make sure that we're getting a good return on our money that we have.
Yes.
The funds, okay, all right.
Good question.
Anything else? I guess we're good on that. Thank you, Roberto.
Yes, thank you, Roberto. I appreciate all the graphs and charts and things. Can I make one last note that I noticed? So when you assess the different municipalities and our tax rates and things, I really do want to highlight to anyone who's watching, not just what Roberto mentioned about Warrenton having other fees and taxes, if you will. They also have completed streetscapes. They have public parking. They have established roadways and support from other entities that we do not have and that we need to complete. So we have quite a few obstacles. So considering how much growth we have and how many expenses are in front of us, to still be the lowest municipality in Northern Virginia says a lot. So I think that we're being very diligent and cautious and thoughtful in those decisions. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Let's move on then. The monthly financial report.
Okay. I'm not sure if there's any specific questions on the monthly financials. One note I definitely want to make is that we have not received our bank stock tax. That is something that we should be coming in. I was hoping by mid-May, but we have not received it as of yet. And currently, we are trending to end up with a really hefty surplus. This is in part due to the budget being very conservative, not knowing what was going to happen with the commercial side. Obviously, you guys can, if you were to take a look at on the revenue side, if you were to take a look at the business, the BPOL, the business license revenue, it is a lot higher than it has been in previous years. This is due to one-off things, mainly the contractors, the build-outs, and as well as some other real estate with the Van Meter properties. So those, it won't be an every year thing. Next year, we may see these numbers pretty, not as high, but up there, due to the same thing, because I believe Pulte will still be doing work when we get into the new budget season. And also Crossroads. And if any other construction developer comes in, as well as Robinson's Paradise, that will all be tracked in next year's BPOL license. So it will inflate those numbers a bit.
Any areas of concern you might want to point out to council? And,
well, the one thing, and I know Chief can talk about this as well. I know the police department, we're keeping an eye on it due to some personnel matters and people getting sick and stuff. I know his overtime on the part, his overtime will be a little higher, as well as him having to address. I'm not sure what the name of that officer's stay.
I'm sorry.
The officer's stay.
Oh, ECOs, TDOs.
ECOs, TDOs, and Chief could speak on that better than I can. But I know that we are keeping an eye out, the chief and I, with the town manager on his department. There will be a few amendments we will request for council on the 26th to address them. So we'll be discussing that soon.
Any other questions? Which kind of leads into the resolution, right? Also got to mention the shift for added money for the truck.
Yes. So, council, I do want to apologize. I didn't want to have to do a resolution twice, amendment twice so soon. But when we first had the discussion over the police vehicle, the truck, the price was originally for $43,000, but due to the vehicle initially being purchased with someone else, another department, it had some modifications done that the town was going to have to pay for. This is to address that modifications. The reason why I put that amendment in here is because it is under the 1%. How we are going to accomplish this additional 2,519 is by taking some from the CIP funds, which is what we would have used in next year's anyway, proposed budget. So you'll see a reduction as well on the final budget when it comes to the police department side.
So you're looking for us to take action on Monday night on this?
Yes, Monday night, yes. I just wanted to address it today.
Any questions or?
Any questions or any concerns on it?
Do we need to address the line item in the resolution? Or does that matter?
So in the past, I've never put in the numbers, but if that's something council wishes to see, I'm more than happy to add the line item number. But in past, I've not been in practice to do so, but I could add it on if you guys would prefer.
Works for me.
I would say
Who do I-
yes.
Yes?
I feel like it's a good reference point
Okay.
for anybody that's like
Shows
trying
where
to
the,
read the budget.
shows where the money came from.
Yeah. Might as well, good tracking. Also, you're keeping track of fuels and everything. It doesn't look like we're going to need any more money.
No. In fact, that's kind of where the chief and I have been talking about moving monies around within his budget. First, try to accomplish those adjustments within the budget. If we need to, obviously everyone's aware that some of our taxes are coming a lot higher than what we expected. If we have to use some of those additional revenues to offset some of the PD's expenditures, we'll do so. But the intent is to first look into within the budget to see how we can address it by moving funds first within the budget, and that's one of the line items, the fuels. Because at the time, Councilman Alexander, at the time when this happened, it was when the fuel costs were really high, so we were anticipating it to keep increasing. So we did include a higher number on the fuels. Obviously, that is not the case. So we are definitely going to use some of those funds to address the part-time and overtime overages.
And the projection is going forward. If you watch the news, it looks like the numbers, the numbers on the gas prices are down. And they're going to stay that way for a little while. So that's a positive too, going forward. We'll see how long that lasts though. So we don't just use historical, we do reference what's happening in the economy writ large, just to try to get a sense of where things are going and anticipate.
They're producing oil in the town that
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll move on. Just amend as directed for the discussions next,
For Monday, Tuesday?
yeah, Monday.
Monday.
Okay, now we'll talk about the vacancies on our boards and committees, commissions.
Good evening, council. In your agenda packet, you will find 2 resignation letters from 2 board members from the Architectural Review Board, Stacy Curran and Susie Lurson. Both of their terms expire June 30 of this year, and they both have decided not to serve another term. So that leaves us 2 vacancies on the Architectural Review Board. I still have 1 vacancy left on the Planning Commission. Mr. Van A filled Mr. Weir's seat that left his position open, his seat open. I do have a strong candidate for you. Probably will be putting in an application for one of the ARB vacancies. So that still leaves us with 1 on each board. So we're actively looking for those to be filled starting for July 1. So if you know of anybody that's willing to serve, we send them our way.
Any comments? Got to get Mary in here on this. She seems to be our best generator of participation. Got Mr. Gonzalez last time.
I think he was just driven to serve. I can't take credit for that. I think he's just a wonderful person. I'll be happy to reach out to my community. Maybe we can send an email to Green Hills HOA as well, since they're a very large community, see if anybody wants to, if they could add it to their newsletter maybe or something. Maybe we can reach out to, I'm sorry?
Their like Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook page. Community
Yeah.
Facebook page.
Are you a part of that?
For Green Hill, there's
Yes.
2 Facebook pages and 1 monthly, or excuse me, newsletter that goes out, correct?
Cool, so we could
Yeah.
probably reach
And a pretty
a
active
decent
board.
amount. I'll give it a shot.
So what would the thought of being like putting a postcard mailer out, help wanted or something? yes, an expense, but with our postage discount, maybe you're talking about something that's under $500. I don't know, just a thought.
When's the next newsletter coming out? No, okay.
Yeah, we want to fill.
About a month and a half.
Let me ask you a question, just to clarify. So to be on the PC, you have to be a resident of town, is that correct?
Correct.
And the Architectural Review Board?
And the Board of
Okay.
And we do keep a running ad in our newsletter about vacancies.
Yeah, you do.
It's something we've kept, and I don't know how much it generates. I don't know how many we have in the trash can.
Okay. We'll give it a shot.
I seem to remember.
Creative ideas. Put some out there. If you guys are at your farmer's market on Sundays,
Right.
you guys can, as you see neighbors and residents, mention that as well.
Are you planning to have a table, like a Haymarket table at the farmer's market?
On June 11th, we will have one.
Okay.
I specifically say June 11th because that will be the day we do our Father's Day celebration. It is 1 week earlier than Father's Day.
Okay.
So we know that we will have a table that day, and we'll do what we did similar in May, where we have our newsletters, we have somebody representative of the town there to interact. Feel free to volunteer for any time slots so we can help cover the table.
I was gonna offer, but you know, now that you asked, I might not.
There's axe throwing. Y'all might be busy throwing axes, but
Just don't get in the way.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, with the Talk to the Mayor program, first farmer's market of the month, it would be nice if I had a sign I could probably put on my Talk to the Mayor sign saying vacancies available, for, you know, looking for volunteers.
Can I put it to council? Can we consider getting him like an official sign so that he doesn't have to like have his homemade signs?
It's on the list. It's on the
Can we
list.
make something
8.5
like look
by
nice?
11?
Like, here,
Yes.
come talk to our mayor. The mayor's here for a chat. Something like
We'll
that.
get one. We'll get
Okay,
one.
I mean, obviously, if council agrees, I just think that it looked kind of sad when
Little tacky.
Ken's got his little handwritten thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody
Well, it was a
objects, but-
last-minute program announcement that I created, so no one had time. I just kind of put it together.
I just want to put it out to the council. If they agree, then we can maybe get you something. Look official.
We can do that.
I'll
Yes.
agree now and then kill it in committee. No. Just kidding, just kidding. So, but the outreach is important. I mean, the whole concept of outreach. I guess you could do a mailer if you wanted to, but wouldn't it make sense also to maybe have some kind of a flyer made up and have council members walk in specific neighborhoods and, you know, meet their constituents?
I know a council member that walks every day.
Yes, he does, and she does. Yeah, I mean, I'd be more than happy to do that, but I mean, I think it would be good for the entire council.
I like being
to do it,
outside.
and get out there and knock on some doors.
Everybody's pretty nice out here.
Move some new residents.
Maybe we could put
gives
some
you
signs
guys-
on the PD vehicles. No, just
You mean like
kidding.
the New York taxi cabs?
Just kidding. But no, I mean, you know, make up some flyers, and I'd be more than happy to do that.
Get a digital monument sign to scroll some messages.
That too. Oh, wait a minute, are we going to get into that with the communications plan? Perhaps?
All right. So
All
this
right.
is gonna be a long meeting, huh?
No, not really.
Well, let's move on then. Everyone done with this topic? No questions? Okay, let's move on to the Town Park Building Questionnaire.
I think this one can be quite brief. Marchant was unable to attend the meeting tonight since he has been championing this topic for quite some time. We wanted to give him the opportunity to be here with Vice Mayor as they presented their questionnaire to all of council. This is the questionnaire that they were tasked with over the past month to come up with the questions and the statement that we're going to put out to the citizens asking for their input on the town park building. So we'll continue to drill down through those questions at our next meeting when Marchant and Vice Mayor are able to both talk to it to all of council. So that'll be coming soon.
You're right.
That's correct. It's not in here.
This doesn't
We,
look like a
we really
questionnaire.
wanted it to be presented all at once with both Vice Mayor and Marchant being able to speak to why they came up with the questions and the statements that they did.
Okay.
So it's a joint venture.
Yes.
Okay, so
So we'll table that then?
done. Next item, the draft communication plan discussion. This is an update. Just wanted to let everybody know, we have had a busy May. Vice Mayor and I have had a lot going on with some event planning and prepping for Fox 5 Zip Trip. So our weekly meetings, we've not been able to hit all of our communication plan yet as we've wanted, but we will be getting that back to council. We will be finalizing everything in June so we can keep moving forward with it. She will have the drafts to be reviewing and we'll keep you guys posted.
95% there.
Yes. We just got to get it past the finish line. So coming soon. That was just an update for you. And then the last item, if you want to keep going quick.
Yes.
Kim's going to send around a handout. I think I have enough copies. I believe Mayor, you already have one,
I already
so
have one.
please don't take another. This is a museum agreement draft, and it is truly just a draft in draft format. This is something we had previously had an agreement that was drawn up for shorter term rental at the museum when we had artists coming in, so that's what we're using. I just would like council to look at the numbers, please. I wanted to have a very brief discussion on the numbers. There was already one suggestion that we put the resident fee at the lower rate along with nonprofit organizations, and then the in-town business would take that middle category there. I just would like a little bit of feedback on the numbers because you guys are residents. You guys are ones that you know your neighbors, you know who might want to use the building. I'd love your feedback so that you guys are fully aware. We have 3 individuals who have already reached out to us. They're ready to move and book for several weekends for the next 6 months time frame. 2 of them are in-town businesses who do not currently have the space in their own business to host the class, workshops, training, or small events that they would like to do. So they find it to be a great opportunity. They can still be very close to their business, host something in their town, and they've also spoken to us about how they're excited that they're able to still have a training class and eat lunch at a local business, be right across the street from their own business. So they're very excited about the opportunity. And then the 3rd individual is an outside community member who does not reside in the town. They don't have a business in the town, but they are looking for a small gathering space for their business to come in and do small events. So, and that has not really even been something that we advertised widely. They just have stumbled upon us and asked about interest in the museum, and they were shown the space. They really like it. The only other thing is we are working with the county to get occupancy permit, so we will have to call them out and we will have to go through that process, filling out the proper applications and permits to get them to come do the inspection. The fire marshal took a look at the building, and we do have to replace one of our emergency lights. It's like this one above Kim. You have to make sure that it stays on when you push the test button. It does not, so we're replacing that. They were not able to find an occupancy permit on file at the county. We can't find one here that states a load that we can have, so we will have to go through the process of getting a new one issued.
Yeah. And if you could give a description on what these numbers are based off of.
Certainly. So this was a project that our event coordinator, Rachel's been working on with her knowledge of different event spaces and going through the process of kind of determining what the space would be used for. So we looked at local HOA community centers, what they currently offer, and we compared it in terms of our size. We don't have a kitchen that we can offer. We don't have refrigerator, microwave, any of that for events. I know a lot of spaces are able to offer that for cakes and you name it. We only have one single restroom in the facility. We do have ADA access, so we tried to do some comparisons of smaller rental spaces in the area, but we also tried to keep in mind who would be renting it, who we want our target audiences to be. And we're really trying to make it affordable to our residents and our nonprofit organizations who service our town and our area. And we're not trying to make a buck on it. We are trying to break even on our monthly costs. So we took all of our monthly costs, we averaged it out for the 12 months of the year, and then we broke down how many events or how many meetings we ideally would like to have in the space. And we worked through these numbers to come up with what we've presented to you.
The bathroom, I know we're ADA with the ramps, but is the bathroom ADA?
I can verify that when we do our full inspection. I do believe the door is wide enough and there are the appropriate bars in there, but I'll verify that it's enough
So the fire
of a
department will
space.
go through and do their assessment to whether or not that load occupancy or however they come up with
So the
that.
building official will come in to do the occupancy load. The fire marshal already came in and did their full inspection, and the fire marshal inspection was okay. We just need to have the building official come in for occupancy.
Okay, thank you.
Teresa?
And we're just gonna note security deposit as well.
Yes, I apologize that's not in here. That was something that we were talking about. Roberto and I are trying to come up with the best option for how to handle the security deposit. We will have one in place. We will set an amount so that we're protecting our asset and we make sure that people are respectful of it. So we will finalize that, and it'll be something we take to Finance Committee, if that's okay with the entirety of council, that we'll clear that number through Finance Committee.
I'm assuming also that we have a door for the stairs so that that can be secured and
Yes.
isolated.
Yes, that's correct. We have the upstairs would be completely secured. There's going to be a sign on the door, and we will put a lock on the door as well so that there are no issues with people going up there unattended or
Ringing the
risking
bell.
anything.
Ringing the bell.
Correct. It will be locked. There will be no ringing of the bell.
So, are you done?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm done.
So use of the facility is the entire property?
Yes, so when this is rented out, we're giving the renter the opportunity to use the back deck as well as the small grassy space over near the little patio. Rachel and I were talking about, do we want to have some just general polite signs that say this property is being rented out for these hours so that people are fully aware. Those will go up in the parking lot. Maybe we put a nice one somewhere in the grass, but kind of similar to when you go and you try to find public parking in a city and it says, due to this event, no public parking in this area from X time to X time. We'd have something similar but tasteful.
And with respect to liability insurance, accident insurance, things like that, will they, based on this agreement, or I guess almost like a lease in a way, would they be covered under the town, or would they have to carry their own?
Let me follow up with you on that. That was one item that we had previously discussed regarding different parties being in there and renting it out. The nonprofits, of course, they show their full nonprofit status and insurance and those items, but let me check for the resident category. For businesses and for nonprofits, we're pretty squared away, but the residents I'll verify.
Okay, thanks. I'll take a look at it.
Certificate of insurance is what comes to mind for that, showing the town additional insured that when something does go bad.
Similar for
I think that would be
Haymarket
kind
Day.
of tough for residents, though, to do that, wouldn't it? I'm not really sure. We'd have to think about that a little bit. Because if a resident's going to do it, I mean, I'm sure they don't have certificates. I guess they have to go out and get one. But
Either that or a non-liability statement to sign, right, when they
something
rent
like
it?
that. Something to think about. I mean, I could see a business having easy access to that, but is it, it's in there?
Release waiver and indemnity.
I'll have to look at this.
Yeah, we started to cover it. Again, this is an agreement that was drafted with the assistance of the town attorney in 2018. So we started to discuss covering it and covering the town, so. But we'll make sure it's all still current. Things could have changed in the last 5 years. For the pricing though, I mean, how does everybody feel about those numbers? Again, keeping in mind that we are trying to cover the town's cost when it comes to the building maintenance, the general utilities. We will have to add internet over there just for ease of use.
May I ask, when you were forming this, what was the rationale between a higher resident and lower business, like in-town business price?
So originally when I spoke with, again, the event coordinator kind of drafted up these numbers. When we spoke, there was a thought process in place of the businesses are pulling in tax revenue from the customer base. They might also be pulling in customers who will then go to other businesses and support those other businesses. Some of our first initial interest in the space, they were discussing how not only do they want to rent the space, but it's something that they then buy lunch from a local shop or they bring in somebody else. So there was almost like a partnership in that sense. So we were trying to encourage that it's a opportunity for the businesses to stay in town, stay local, keep their customer base here. But we are flexible. We understand both residents and businesses pay taxes. We also understand that a lot of our residents don't have an HOA community center that's easily accessible to them, or if they do have one, I'm not sure how often Green Hill fills up, how available it is, how cost-friendly it is. So we are open to modifying the prices. We're looking for feedback from council on what we've presented number-wise.
Are you classifying HOAs under the resident or nonprofit?
I would classify them under resident because, so I would classify them under resident because everybody in the HOA should be a resident. I know that you guys have managing partners and managing groups, but we would honor it as a resident. We also, briefly, Councilman Pasanello and I discussed before the meeting that we could put together the resident and the nonprofits, and then the in-town businesses takes that middle column pricing. We can switch that up if that's desirable.
So here's where my thought process is going, and I'm not sold on anything, so take it with a grain of salt, please. But I almost feel like people who are intending to use this space to do business, whether it's for their actual place of business or their community's business, I think that that's a different category than let's have a party and have children run around and all those things and bring cake and whatever. It's more than just a gathering, it's to conduct business. So I think that we should consider that when we're pricing this out, that we shouldn't penalize people for needing a place to do business. I think that that's one amenity that I think we could provide for our in-town residents and businesses.
Okay.
But I would love to hear other people's thoughts.
Vice?
So you're saying categorize it more per event happening, or overall you're seeing it as a service that the town provides as an option for people to gather?
So what I'm thinking is, like, a birthday party is going to happen once a year. An HOA meeting happens once a quarter. So this person is going, or this group of people is going to pay and rent this space 4 times a year, while the birthday party will do once a year. So keep that in mind. The expenses over time could be more manageable for an HOA if we have it at a lower rate, but it could still balance out in a way. But also, like, I think my biggest thing is I want it to be like a communal space, right? Like anything that the town owns should be available to our community. So if our community needs a meeting space, I feel like that's a service we should provide. And I don't necessarily want to just, well, you live in town, so you pay half of what an out-of-town person would be, but an in-town business gets a steeper discount. While I do understand that they bring in more people at the same time, you know, an HOA is just doing business. It's not like they're there to, like, have a sleepover or something. Or even organizations like Girl Scouts, you know, it's an educational kind of thing. So I don't want to penalize one group over another. Does that make sense?
It does. So right now we have thought through that like Girl Scouts, Scout troops would fall under our nonprofit category. I know that within town businesses, if we look at it in the sense of they're offering a workshop and they have paying customers, that can be a pass-through cost for them. That can be a price of signing up for the workshop. So certainly they would be able to cover the fees a little bit easier than, like you said, a resident who just doesn't have the space in their living room to have 20 small kids running around to cut a birthday cake. So, you know, we understand that as well. We can certainly modify it. We can certainly work with HOAs, you know, quarterly meetings, right? If you go ahead and schedule for all of 2024, you know, there can be an option there for a discounted rate, or we can work through that process too. If the goal is to give HOAs an accessible, low-cost option to have a neutral meeting spot instead of the center of a cul-de-sac. You know, we know a lot of you guys make do with what you have, and sometimes it's just outside meetings.
And also the weekend rate looks like an all or nothing thing.
Yes, so the reason we put a weekend rate in here is we did have some interest in, from one of our businesses had interest in renting it from Friday afternoon all the way through Sunday for workshops, specifically training workshops. So that's why we came up with a weekend rate. They can, however, decide, I only truly need it Saturday and Sunday. I don't need any setup time. I don't need Friday time. And they could do a 2 full day rate, which would keep it cheaper than the 2.5 day rate.
Do we need to set some sort of limitation on what types of events can be held within the space, or?
We certainly can, yes. I do think our occupancy load is going to do a lot of that for us. I mean, this is just, it's a small space. I'm not a professional when it comes to occupancy loads and being able to eyeball it, but we do not have a lot of seated room. You'll get more if it's standing room only, but even then it will get tight fast. So I think our occupancy load is really going to help us out with that.
And also there is a mention of course, with the town's approval, I think maybe alcoholic beverages can potentially be served within that space. Is that to your point, liability and so forth? I'm not sure if we should leave the door open in terms of serving alcoholic beverages within the space.
The way
You
it
need
was
to get a special permit
Yeah, it
from the
says
city.
Correct.
ABC.
The way it was
So even if
previous-
you do, you know.
Yeah, the way it was previously done was when we had artists in there and they wanted to do an open house or an event there in the evening and they wanted to offer a small glass of wine or a tasting, they had to pull a special ABC license, and they were the ones listed on there and show their insurance as well.
So the question is,
That can be struck easily. That is not, I'm neutral on it. It is not something that's going to make it or break it for staff.
I'm just envisioning like you have, say, a business here that wants to do like a team building activity in the museum, right? So they do a paint and wine event for their employees or something, or whatever. You know, I don't want to discourage those kinds of events. However, with the small space being really close to the street, any amounts of alcohol make me nervous, but that's just, you
I
know.
think that's a liability specific to our insurance that we can address. and maybe decide.
Well, if they're pulling the ABC license, don't they, you said they have to have their own insurance, so there's at least that, we have that assurance.
Yeah, and I do think the space is limited. When you start to look at something like that, you need a lot of space per person. You would have to look for something a little bit bigger. That's when, I feel like we wouldn't be creating an interference for like the hotel to rent out their convention room or whatever. That's what we're not trying to do, is to compete with our businesses in town, right?
Sure.
So I'll leave it at that. Joe?
Good discussion. But I want to ask a question. So we do have a policy in place, right, on events? So if this was going to be 50 people or greater, wouldn't they have to go through the permitting process for that as well?
Yes, special event license.
Yeah. So there's safeguards built into that as well. So we have to consider that. Everything from what, public safety to,
Restrooms, music, food.
right. So there are limitations, particularly depending on the capacity, which we don't know yet. So that's another consideration. But I do also have a question relative to this space. And would that then preclude HOAs and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and others from using this space?
What I envision is that the current uses in this space, so the Rotary Club or the HOA, would move over to the town museum space. If the town council wishes to give an option for a free meeting space for certain groups, and it be your HOAs who are in town, and if it's, certain organizations that serve the town, that's your discretion. I'm happy to honor whatever you guys decide. We can certainly talk about that. When it comes to scout groups using this space, what I envision is if they're here for a meeting or they want to learn about community local government, it would be necessary to probably have some of those meetings and some of those discussions in this building, but that's when one of us would be present. That's when we're probably presenting to the group. If they wanted to use it as a meeting space that they could meet every other week for their routine monthly meetings, then certainly I would ask that they look at the museum space, because that way we can give them a code, they can let themselves in and out of the back door. They have an agreement with us that's signed, and that's something that's kind of on the record. This would be more, kind of bring it back towards, we're educating them, this is an educational space for our youth when it comes to those meetings. But I do envision that Rotary will be across the street, and if possible, the HOA meetings as well, because our current, policy and what we try to do here is that a town representative who has a door code has to be present at all times in this space to protect our assets that we have in here. If they're across the street, we have an agreement in writing. They have a designated door code. They can come in and unlock and lock it. That door code will expire after their rental. They won't have entry and exit access, so.
Right. Okay.
And this is all, you guys can certainly noodle on it. You can think about it. We can put it on Tuesday or Monday night's agenda. And we can come back to it if you guys want to think through pricing, if you guys want to consider letting HOAs rent it out for no cost. I'm open to any ideas. I'm just letting you guys know we have interest. We have people who want to move on it quick. I want to move on it quick and get people back in there. It's a great space. We have an unpaid intern who's doing historic stuff in there to get our displays up and going. So we really have interest. I think people are excited.
I would encourage council to consider, if the HOA meetings are on the weekdays, that we allow them to do so, like conduct business with just a deposit. I would like us to entertain that if we could, see what we think, just because, I don't know of anybody having birthday parties in the middle of the week, but, it'd be nice to have like this space be for special events, like for the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, whatever, for it to be educational, and over there for it to be a gathering space.
And it's also, I mean, I'll toss one more idea out there for council to consider. I personally am not aware of what pricing and what funds are available to our local scout troops, but if that's another group of individuals that you guys would like to offer a free meeting hall within reason to them to encourage, you know, the practice of education or service or anything of that nature, that's again at your discretion. It's something we're servicing the youth in our community, and that might be a nice thing that the town council considers as well. I know it can be hard to get funding in small scout groups or small youth organizations like that, so we don't want to price out the people who need it the most, I think is what Mary was getting to earlier. If I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I
But
think
yeah, I mean, especially considering that like places like the library, they're not open late anymore. Like they close at 5 on Sundays. They open late during the weekends. So, you know, like they close at 5 during the weekday too, except for like 1 or 2 days a week, which is absurd to me, but that's another discussion. So I just want us to consider not penalizing people who just need a place to gather.
maybe have your scouts sign up to do the pledge or something. Okay, I'll put this back on the agenda for Monday night so that you guys all have a little homework to noodle on.
Homework.
Yes, think about the rates, the prices. Reach out if you have any big suggestions before Monday. I do have one agenda item that we need to add. This was an oversight on us putting the agenda together. We would like to add an agenda item for Chief's hazard mitigation plan. Please.
Any objections? None?
Chief.
Okay, Chief.
Okay, if you refer to your emails on May the 22nd, I did send out the hazard mitigation plan that had been presented by the Northern Virginia Emergency Services Council, which we did have heavy input on between the town manager and myself. This, matter of fact, it was one of the first assignments I got 18 months ago, over 18 months ago when I got here, and it's finally come to fruition. So what we're looking for is just an affirmation next Monday night through resolution to adopt the plan for our annex, which is 17, as it's written. And I know it's a lot to digest. It's a 35-page document. I'll do my best to answer any questions, but I wasn't able to get through to my server, so I'm doing a repair on this, but I can read off my phone right at the moment. So trying to refer to a 35-page document on an iPhone 12 is not the easiest thing to do, but I'll be glad to muster through on it. See if you have any questions before Monday night.
I actually do, if I may. Unless you want me to wait till tomorrow and I'll give you everything.
It's whatever council's pleasure. Oh, look, my savior.
Well, obviously, the resolution, we'll have to format that, right, for the town format, all right. So I read it, and this is just a microcosm of a bigger plan.
Much bigger. I think, don't quote me, I think the whole plan is almost 400 pages.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest when you're looking at the inner workings. I mean, it was a very convoluted document to go through on all of the upfits and redos and things like that, because everything affects something else. So it was constantly a lot of reading, to say the least.
So this is just an add-on to a bigger plan, which is just focused on the town of Haymarket, but there is a coordination with the county. at
Correct.
certain levels.
Correct, at all levels, quite frankly. And we've been doing our best to make great partners with them, and we've reaped benefits from everything from lighting for our Christmas events to message boards to big picture things like a hazard issue that we would have to deal with on a mass scale, from a hurricane to flooding issues to whatever else might be in there. So yeah, it is a small part of a much bigger plan.
Right, of Northern Virginia communities.
Yep.
So, so I started reading it, and I'm thinking this is mostly about natural hazards. But then it
Right.
seemed to shift into both natural and
Man-made.
man-made.
Correct. Yes, sir. It does address both.
Because one of the things that jumped out at me was the railroad stuff that wasn't really covered in here, I don't think.
Not to my liking, but of course, a lot of the document was written before our tragic events as of recent.
Right.
But I can tell you that we've had coordination with railroad, not just on that, but on freight issues or chemical issues, and also how it would affect our gas line issues.
Right.
We've already done some partnership and meetings between those two entities to see how it would affect. So it might not be incorporated into this mitigation survey or this plan right here, but it has been thought about, and there is pen to paper on that thought process.
For simpatico.
Right, and in a much bigger issue, not just looking at the hazards to citizen, but more looking to the hazards of freight or chemicals that would be coming through the area and having an accident. As you know, as you're well aware, the United States has had several issues across the country with rail wrecks here lately. So there's definitely some pre-planning going on with that, and it continues to.
Right, right. So this is reviewed every year, this plan? Is that correct?
This plan is on a 3-year rotation to update it into the 4th year.
Okay.
So it would be active. In other words, all the preamble would be the 3rd year, and then the 4th year it would be enacted.
Okay, and who's our point person? I mean, I'm assuming it was you, Chief?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this all falls on me, but there was specific information that the town manager had to address. And then there was also, she had addressed it as the town planner as well when we started working on it.
So, all right, I just want to make a note of that, so we're aware of that. So every 3 years into the 4th year, so when will that happen? After we do this resolution, then, would that 3-year cycle begin?
The 3-year cycle has already begun.
Has already begun?
It begun in January.
Right, January 23.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I noticed some of the language that was a little outdated, so I'm
Yep.
assuming that we took some language from the comp plan and other places.
Correct. You got to remember, this document's been we've been working on this for 19 months.
Yeah.
But my understanding when I came into this job, when I got contacted by EOC, was that there was a lot of COVID issues that had been delaying it, and then they were trying to get it moving again, get it moving it forward. So I think that was part of the reason for the delays of taking close to 19 months to produce the document.
Okay, all right. And just my last question for now, any costs related to us other than your time involved in?
No, sir,
meetings?
just the time involved. But the positive to this is adopting this plan, we would be more apt to receive hazard funds or mitigation funds if we did have an issue that we had to deal with.
And would we have to go through the county to do that, or we could do that on our own?
We could do that on our own, but we're already signed into the plan, and it would definitely grease the wheels, to say the least. As a matter of fact, if we don't, this is not like an extortion side, but if we don't adopt a resolution, we would not be eligible for funds. But if they had given us no recourse, in other words, no quid pro quo as to have comments, it might be something to really look at hard. But we've been involved with this for, like I said, 19 months now, and had our say in it many times with many new updates and add-ons.
And I noticed that the reviewers were basically the planning and zoning office, which I imagine that's the town manager as the ZTA.
Yeah.
And the police department. The planning commission involved in this at all?
No.
No? Okay. Maybe going forward, might be a consideration to have the planning commission.
The more eyes you have on it, the better, but I will say it is labor intensive. It is a lot of reading, and then you don't just look at your annex, you have to look at everything else and how it fits in. So every time they would send out an update, it's been 8-9 hours sitting there going cross-eyed in front of the computer trying to see what all was changed and how it would affect and how it would move our plans one way or the other. So the more eyes on it would be better.
Yeah, I would think so too, yeah. And just lastly, the education and outreach capabilities, that's where I was thinking about the communications plan.
Yeah.
Would be really how that would tie into this, once we have that.
Yeah, well, we all already have the mass issue send out text that that we've incorporated there, and then the partnerships that we've developed with their communications, Northern Virginia, specifically Prince William's plans, has been very, very helpful, and they've been very receptive to what we've had to say and anything that we've asked them to help us with.
Well, good. Well, thank you for working on this, you guys, and it's a good plan. It's a good start, and we'll evaluate and make adjustments to it going forward. So I'm good with it.
Yeah, on a personal note, I think it would be better if they could do it by the year, because things change so quickly, and especially with our little town, growing the way it has since this document was started. I mean, the subdivision down here, the townhomes, where there was nothing. It was just ground. This was still woods down there when this document was started. But here we are, we're making plans without those little areas being where they're at today. Right. But with the amount of work that's involved, I don't see how they could make it. I mean, it would be a continuous work in progress. It would never end. There would never be a finalized document.
But our segment, that wouldn't preclude us from reviewing it annually, right?
I'm sorry?
Our segment of it, our annex, appendix, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, it wouldn't preclude the town from doing an update annually for ourselves to have it ready for that third year.
No, and I actually keep this document in my desk that they've presented to make notes on it moving forward for the next plan, but then also to see little tweaks that we might need to make. But we'll be the ones that's in command at that moment if there's an issue, and we'll already have those adjustments ready to go. So that, yeah, you're right, correct. We can make our adjustments as we go along. So.
Good, thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
That's
Okay.
all I have.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, yeah, I do see in here, you do mention the evacuation plan. I don't see, I cruised through this real quick, but I didn't see any identifications of triggers that go into that, or what the decision tree is for these triggers?
No, there was none incorporated into that. Of course, that would be a very fluid situation. I mean, you can, pre-can certain events, but you can't pre-can where they're going to happen or how they're going to flow into the area and how it might affect egress or exit. So you could throw some triggers in there, but they would be very generalistic. That's just my opinion.
Do you know, since this is an annex, does the main document that is probably held by some Northern Virginia organization structure, do they have decision trees and triggers in it?
No, I did not see any, and like I said, I looked over that document, and I have possession of that document. I have possession of the whole document digitally. I don't want to kill 3 trees to print it, but I did not see any. I don't recall seeing any trigger mechanisms in there. But we could develop our own, and then we could present that into the next planning session if it was something council seen fit.
Well, if there were ones that existed, I'd like to inherit them, and that's all I'd want to have in these documents. I think we're a little bit too small to be putting triggers in here.
Let me peruse the big document just to make sure that there's none. I do not recall seeing any.
Yeah, but I would like to reference them if we do have triggers in the inherited documents that we have, referencing up to them, perking up, saying, and we're following these triggers and decision trees.
Right, it's already been pre-canned and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yep, no, I will do that. I will reference the whole document again and make sure that they're either there and I missed them, or they're either not there. So. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yep, and on that note?
Hold on, one final item.
Nope.
Did everybody report back to Kim on your availability for your July meeting date? I believe we're still waiting on some correspondence, but it looks like July 10th was the best option.
I was flexible.
If there are no objections,
I want to give you a good answer. Where's July? There's July.
Good catch.
July 10th should work for me just fine.
So that's what, Monday?
That's a Monday. It's the second Monday.
Yep. I'm free July 10th.
Email to me. I was just to say, the last one I showed from you was just about the Brewers ice cream, or Brewster's ice cream. I didn't get your email.
Does July 10th
Sure.
work for you?
Yeah, sure.
Sure or yes?
Yeah. it will.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
Okay. And then one other quorum question. Is everybody able to attend on June 26th work session? Or do we have any issues with quorum? If we have issues with quorum, we need to set a special meeting date for budget adoption. We would like to be proactive, so we're not scrambling the last week of June, please.
Yes, because of the public meeting today,
Right.
we need a week before we can decide.
Right.
So that leaves either a special meeting or the work session.
So, Mayor and Council, because of the quorum issues we've been having lately, I wanted to propose to council as a whole, if June 22nd will work as a special meeting, strictly for budget adoption. Next Monday, the council could vote on the real estate tax rate. I will have that resolution prepared in there if that vote is made that day. But because of the quorum issues, I want to see if it's possible to set up June 22nd as a special meeting. And at 26th, if it's a worst case scenario, we don't have quorum on the 22nd.
Well, I'm hamster sitting, so I'll be here.
You gonna bring the hamster?
Babysitting.
Either the 22nd or the 26th work for me.
Okay.
God willing.
So agreeing to this means I have to be here the 22nd and 26th.
Yes.
You're cutting into my summer break.
Oh.
It shouldn't take any more than 45 minutes max.
Famous last words. I am,
you know
I'm
what?
officially available.
If we have a quorum here, you could call in, if that helps.
I'm a little less censored on virtual
Well,
visits, but okay.
And again, the special meeting for the 22nd will be just for the budget
Right.
adoption, nothing else. We have the work
Hopefully
session.
We've wrung it out, so it's a come in, vote, and leave.
All right, I'm available.
Councilman Leak, will you be around?
No conflicts that I can see. I'll foresee.
Councilman Alexander? I do appreciate you guys working with me on this. It's just that I don't want to wait till the 26th. Something happens and we don't have quorum, and then we're scrambling for the last 4 days of the year, fiscal year, to get the budget appropriated and adopted.
Especially when we need notice time.
Right.
So we would do the June 22nd at 7 p.m.
What night is that, Thursday? Is that
It's
Thursday
a
night?
Thursday.
Anything on TV that night?
And
We'll go ahead and post both those calendar changes tomorrow.
while I do have the floor, will June 5th, will Monday be, would it be possible for you guys to vote on the real estate tax? Usually we vote on the real estate tax before the adoption of the budget. That is our next regular scheduled meeting before the 22nd or the 26th. Or, yes, or we would have to call a special meeting to get that tax rate voted on.
No more meetings.
On the 5th.
Vote on this.
We'll put it on the 5th agenda.
Okay, great, excellent.
That is all now.
All right, I move to adjourn.
A second.
Are we excused?
Got a motion and a second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.